Hey everybody, I'm Stacy Lynn. Today I have a very special ingredient I am working with. It is one of my favorite ingredients ever to work with. And they're only available a couple of months out of the year, unless of course you preserve them or freeze them. I have some chanterelle mushrooms, and actually my friend Ruthie Carlson brought these to me because she knew how much I loved them. And one other reason is because her husband would not try them because he's like, you got these out of the forest, out of the wild, and I'm not out of the wilderness, and I'm not going to be eating a wild mushroom. I've heard too many stories about that. So I told him if we're still alive next year that he knows that he can eat them. And so that's going to be a great thing. But anyway, she brought me these. I'm so thankful for them, and I'm going to show you how to preserve them. I've already been cooking with a lot of them lately because they are going crazy out in the woods this year, and I have found so many of them. They are mostly in moist areas, and boy has it been moist here in Alabama this year. So they're huge, they're beautiful, big, and they are so strikingly gorgeous in the food, and they taste amazing. So the first thing you're gonna do when you're picking them from the wild is just to rinse them off. Now, there's a lot of people that say these absorb the water. You don't need to wash them or, with water. You just need to brush them off. Well, one thing about brushing them off is that it doesn't get all of the soil, to me, off. And I'm gonna wash mine. And the other thing is, I believe that these actually cook better when they have a little bit of water in them. Now, some mushrooms don't, but these seem to, and I just really love these mushrooms. So I'm gonna be cutting them up in a little while, just a little bit smaller. I still wanna see that beautiful ruffle around the top edge. So I'm gonna keep a little bit of that, but I want them a little bit smaller because nobody's really, unless you're just eating a whole mushroom and that's all you're having, nobody really wants that big of a bite. So I'm getting all the soil off of that, as you see. I'm putting them on a cookie sheet with a paper towel just to get them a little bit more dry. So I'm gonna continue washing them, and then I'm gonna be cutting them up. Okay, so this is my very last mushroom, and I'm gonna show you how you can just tear it apart. They're so easy. There's just natural areas that pull apart. So if you don't wanna cut them later, you can get them really a lot cleaner anyway if you do that. Another tip to cleaning them is you can use the back of your fingernail. It's real easy to get off any of this soil just by going over the top layer of the mushroom. So they'll probably almost be torn apart anyway, so you won't have to chop them up when you go to sauteing them. Now, there's other ways you can preserve these as far as freezing them. You can steam them with no fat, or you can dry saute them without any fat as well if you don't want to put any fat in it. And then I just take off the end of it because it helps me to break this up a little bit more, and the soil on there is real hard to get off. You can keep it if you want to. So anyway, so there you go. And so that's really all you have to do. I'm going to take it over to my cutting board now and do the ones that I have not done the other way. So I'm actually going to just tear these because I think that is the best thing to do. They kind of tear in the right spots so that you still, when you're cooking, you still have a nice mushroomy look to it. It's not just a bunch of, perfectly chopped vegetables in there. You know that you've got some chunky mushrooms. They're just beautiful to look at, and they make a plate of food gorgeous. You can also eat them just the way that I'm going to saute them here in a minute. You can eat them plain like that if you want to, or mix them with a couple of other vegetables. But I'm going to leave mine. So I've got some small little bits. Oh, I had one more tip. I like to wash mine in a colander because all the dirt can go out, and you'll be left with a bunch of stuff down in the bottom, and you don't want to waste all those little bits for sure. So now we're gonna saute. Okay, so now I am at my stove, and we are about to saute these in a little bit of butter. You can use olive oil, butter, whatever you want to do, and some garlic. So I've got my garlic chopped up, I'm melting my butter, and I'm about to put the mushrooms in. And one thing I want to say, a lot of people feel like they can just dry these mushrooms just like you would dry any other kind of mushroom, but you lose a lot of flavor with chanterelles. You really need to freeze them, in my opinion, or pickle them. And I'll do a video on pickling them soon, because I plan on my next harvest, I plan on doing the pickling. And I don't know, I may pickle them and then preserve them in oil. And it's a simple process to do that. All you have to do really is to boil the chanterelles in half vinegar, half water, and for about 5 minutes, and then you are finished with that. You put them in a jar, and then you pour either that mixture on top of them, or you can pour oil on top of that, and then you store them in the refrigerator. Or if they're in the vinegar, you can actually go ahead and pressure can those, and you've got a can. Okay, so I've got my butter, and I'm gonna put my garlic in. And I did about 4 cloves. You know, you can play it by ear, do what you want to do. I'm going to get the flavor in here really good. Put a little bit more olive oil in the pan so that the butter does not burn. And then I'm going to add the chanterelles in here. So I'm going to do this in batches, but they're going to shrink down quite a bit. And, you know, so it's not going to look like you're going to have nearly as much when they start shrinking down. The other thing about this, just to let you know, they're like gold to hunters and to chefs everywhere. And chefs pay high prices. I mean, it's like almost $1 a chanterelle mushroom. Isn't that crazy? They're so delicious. And what I like to do is get them out of the freezer. And, you know, to freeze them, I'm going to use either a quart size, which I probably won't because I have a large family, and every time we use them, I'm doing such big amounts. But you can do a quart size if you have a family of 2 or 3, or a gallon size, which is probably what I'll do. And I'm not sure how much that's going to be, if it's going to be 1 gallon or 2, but we'll be seeing. But anyway, you can put those straight from the freezer, if you cook them like this, into soups, to make sauces, in your omelets. They go perfectly with eggs or venison. They are so amazing. So I'm gonna just saute these here for about, I don't know, maybe about 3-4 minutes. It doesn't take a whole long time. And then I'm just gonna move them to another sheet pan and let them cool before I freeze them. You can see how much liquid these mushrooms have released. I'm just going to remove these before the next batch, and I'm going to pour out all of that and start back over with a little bit of oil and a little bit of butter to give them flavor. So I can just open the Ziploc and pour it right into whatever dish that I'm going to want to use. But the reason for this sauteing is to get the water out of the mushrooms, and they release it really quickly, really much more quickly than a lot of other mushrooms that we use. I've removed all of my mushrooms, and they've been cooling for about 10 minutes. So I think that they're ready to be bagged up. And this is all going to be about 1 gallon, as many as I have washed today and sauteed. They really, really lose so much moisture, and they shrink down. So all of this will be used very quickly. I'll be putting some of this into a soup. I'll probably make a soup, a sauce, and put these in my scrambled eggs or my omelets. So I will thaw them in the refrigerator, and when they're all thawed out, I'll use them that very next day. And you can also freeze some of your sauces as well, if you want to do that. So you can go ahead and make a sauce and freeze it if you've got too many out. I'm just going to use my hands because it's so much easier, and it's my family, and my hands are impeccably clean, as Julia Child would say. Okay. Don't want to miss any of the small ones. I'm going to try to get as many as I can. And then we're gonna get all of the air out of the bag. And you can use a food saver if you like. I just didn't feel like getting mine out for just doing one thing. All right, so now I'm just gonna get all of the air out of the bag the best that I can. Okay, I just have to wash this bag. All right, and then close it, and there you have it. So I'm just gonna spread these out evenly and freeze them on a flat surface in the freezer, just like that. And then I'll thaw them in the refrigerator, and then I'm ready to use them in all of my incredible dishes because of the chanterelle mushrooms. They make all the difference in the world. I promise you, if you have these, you are gonna think they are like gold in the culinary world. I'll talk to you soon. I hope you'll visit stacylynnharris.com, and I'll tell you all about preserving things and also, you know, great recipes that you can use with all of your preserved harvest. I'll talk to you soon.